I am the daughter of a minor official in the capital. It wasn't until I turned 16 that I learned I'd been switched at birth with Gu Yunshang, the young lady of the Duke's manor. At that time, we each had marriage arrangements. She was to marry into a noble family's heir, while I was to wed a poor scholar. Our families agreed to become sworn kin, each returning to our rightful place, but the marriage arrangements would remain unchanged. Who knew the heir would later die in battle, leaving her a widow? Meanwhile, the scholar I married rose rapidly through the ranks, becoming a new favorite at court. The two of them carried on an affair for years, and she got pregnant. When the scandal broke, both families covered for them, even wanting to let that bastard child be born and registered under my name. When I refused, they forced medicine down my throat and sent me off to a country estate to nurture the pregnancy. Blood relatives and adoptive relatives alike, not a single person stood by my side. Depressed, I left the capital and died in a natural disaster. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at 16, after the two families had become sworn kin and settled the marriage arrangements. When they asked our opinions, Gu Yunsheng spoke up first. Since we've each returned to our rightful place, let's switch the marriage arrangements back too. What? The moment Gu Yunsheng said this, my birth mother, the Duke's wife, was the first to lose her composure. Yunner, the mix-up between our families was fate ordained by heaven. Though we've each returned to our rightful place now, we've also become sworn kin. You are still the Duke's daughter, just think of it as having an extra set of parents. Simply follow your own heart. Exactly. My adoptive mother, Lady He, whom I had called mother for 16 years, also chimed in. I heard you and that Chu prince's heir were childhood sweethearts. If this matter ruins a good marriage, then it would be the fault of me, your birth mother. Both of them looked worried, and between the lines they both hoped that the marriage between Gu Yuncheng and the Chu prince's heir would proceed as planned. So obvious, so undisguised. How ridiculous that I actually thought before that the Duke of Ying's manor and the Xia family respected my and Gu Yuncheng's opinions. Neither Gu Yuncheng nor I wanted to switch the marriage arrangement, and they didn't force us either. Now, it seems, it was exactly what they wanted. I've thought it through. Gu Yuncheng beside me spoke with a resolute tone. I heard from Mother that this marriage was arranged before my sister was even born. So this is truly a match made by heaven. Naturally, such a good marriage should be returned to her. Returned. For Gu Yuncheng to say such words, she must have been through rebirth as well. In the previous life, shortly after the Chu prince's heir married her, he went out to war and died on the battlefield. She became a widow, and because she and I called each other sisters, she often came to seek comfort. Back and forth, she actually had an affair with my husband. Zhou Moi was furious, and wanted to expose the matter, but was stopped by both the Gu and Shi manors, saying that family scandals should not be made public. I placed my hopes on them to uphold justice for me. But what I didn't expect was that what came was a bowl of medicine that could make one's entire body powerless. They said they were sending me to a country estate to nurture the pregnancy. Gu Yunsheng will go to Qingfeng Temple to pray for blessings, and give birth to the child there. That child will be registered under my name, and call me mother. The Duke of England's wife and lady, he took turns trying to persuade me. Why can't you tolerate Yunner at all? Now that the deed is done and she is pregnant, you insist on exposing this matter to high heaven. Do you want to force her to her death? Don't forget, you were betrothed to the Prince of Chu's heir since before birth. If it weren't for her, you'd be the one living as a widow. She took on the widow's fate in your place. You'll owe her for the rest of your life. How biased, how absurd. Sami bloodline raised together for 16 years. Yet not a single person from either household stood on my side. Zhou Mo also poured out his heart to me with deep sincerity, expressing his pity for Gu Yunsheng and begging me to forgive him this once. How ridiculous. I was sent out of the capital overnight, but encountered a mudslide in the outskirts. The coachman and maidservant all fled, but I was completely powerless. Could only watch helplessly as the mud submerged over my head. Suffocation. Until death. Jingshu, what do you think? The Duke's wife looked over, her eyes carrying a barely perceptible trace of hope. Lady He chuckled and spoke first. Jingshu and that Zhou family boy have had feelings since childhood too. I am afraid she won't be willing. Then let's swap. I suddenly spoke up. As soon as the words fell, the hall became deathly silent. I swept my gaze across the expressions of everyone present. One by one, the Duke of England, Father Shi, the Duchess of England, Lady He, all four wore displeased expressions, and the two mothers' eyes concealed some anger. As expected, this so-called discussion about the marriage was just going through the motions. Whether it was the Duke of England's manor, or the Xia manor, both hoped this marriage arrangement with the Prince of Chu's heir would go to Gu Yunsheng. Later, when this marriage didn't go as desired, and Gu Yunsheng had an affair while widowed, secretly becoming pregnant with Zhoumo's child, they used every means to cover up for her. They even didn't hesitate to sacrifice me. In my past life, I was slow to realize I thought they treated both daughters equally, only feeling that I was different from others, having two sets of parents. Only later did I realize. What two sets of parents? The one who truly had two sets of parents was only Gu Yunsheng. Gu Yunsheng got the result she wanted and beamed with joy. Then it is settled like this. If she wants to switch, then let her switch. The unfaithful lover, the entire household of relatives, let her have them all to herself. After that, I didn't say anything more. In front of them, my words carried no weight. On the contrary, if Gu Yunsheng wanted to switch the marriage arrangement, she would definitely succeed. And in the end, that is exactly what happened. After the marriage was settled, everyone should return to their proper places. The two families agreed that before the wedding, they would each return to their birth parents to cultivate their relationships. The Duchess pulled Gu Yunsheng close, tears welling up, as if she had endless things to say. Lady He also called me over, her expression not looking too good. You were so full of ideas before, completely satisfied with the Zhou family. Know that there is a better match. You are eager to climb up to it, making people laugh at our family's upbringing. My expression was indifferent as I stated the facts. Gu Yunsheng also wants to switch. She nagged on and on. You already said you wanted it back like that. How could she have the nerve to cling on and not give it up? Our family's status isn't as good as the Duke's manor. She has gotten the advantage, as her birth mother. I am clear about this in my heart. Doesn't she know it too? After all, she is a young lady raised in the Duke's manor. She understands propriety and is willing to yield. And you? Why don't you think about it, marrying into such a prestigious family this way? If you make a fool of yourself, what will? Once I become the heir's consort, even if I make a fool of myself, no one will dare laugh at me. I raised my head and looked directly at this woman I had called mother for 16 years. It was my match to begin with. What is wrong with taking it back? Is mother unhappy because her own birth daughter can't marry into a prestigious family? You? She's lips trembled with anger. Though you didn't come from my belly, I've still raised you all these years. Now that you are about to leave, this is how you speak to me. Are you reminding me of how you raised me before? I sneered lightly. You've never liked me. You believed that scabby monk who said my 8 characters were inauspicious to mothers. When I was young, you sent me to my maternal grandfather's home to live under someone else's roof. Thinking about it now, I am afraid you knew all along. What nonsense are you spouting? She cut me off, her face turning pale. 16 years ago, a civil uprising occurred, and the rebel army reached the capital. Noble families and officials all fled and hid in Sansheng Mountain on the outskirts of the capital. Among them were she and the Duke of Ying's wife. Both were pregnant, and after days of jolting and fright, they gave birth behind curtains on Sansheng Mountain. In the chaos with so many people, it was at that time that I and Gu Yunsheng were switched. Later, when the matter was discovered, it was also by chance. Lady He took me to attend a banquet. And at that banquet, Simone noticed I bore a striking resemblance to the Duke's wife. Taking another look at Lady He, Gu Yunsheng's features were a perfect match to hers as well. It just so happened that at the banquet there was a relative from the duke's wife's maternal family, who recalled how the duke's wife had given birth 16 years ago, and went to tell her. After the incident came to light, the capital regarded this matter as a strange tale. The duke's manor's daughter, Gu Yunchang, was considered a model noble lady, proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Not only was she betrothed to the Chu prince's heir, she was also selected as the princess's study companion, constantly attending to noble personages. She turned out not to be the duke's manor's biological daughter, but rather the daughter of a minor 7th-rank official. The two families' social standings were vastly different. So quite a few people speculated whether Gu Yancheng's birth mother had harbored ill intentions during childbirth and deliberately switched the daughters to send hers into a noble household. Lady he feared most being suspected in this way. Hearing these words, for a moment she could barely breathe from anger. I smiled. Gu Yunsheng and I were born almost at the same time. If I bring misfortune to my mother, then she should be no better. I expect you to treat her the same way you treat me. Ignoring she's face turning white with anger, I packed up my things and left. My relationship with she has never been good. She developed chronic health problems from giving birth to me, wouldn't hold me when I was young, and showed no affection as I grew up. She even believed a passing monk's words that my birth chart was inauspicious to my mother, and sent me to my maternal grandfather's home when I was little, to live under someone else's roof. I was timid by nature from childhood. After returning to the capital, I tried my best to please her, but still couldn't earn a kind look from her. In my previous life, when the baby swap was exposed, I learned her chronic illness wasn't caused by my birth, and thought the barrier between us would disappear. Yet she still never showed me any intimacy. Only now do I realize her chronic illness was caused by Gu Yunshang. Yet she never held any grudge against Gu Yunshang because of it. She doesn't blame Gu Yunshang, only me. Sitting in the carriage back to the duke's mansion, the duke's wife still had red eyes, reluctant to part. She has 3 sons, but only 1 daughter. Gu Yunshang is the youngest daughter, pampered and adored since birth. She devoted all her efforts to raising her into a model of noble ladies in the capital. Now that Gu Yunshang has gone to another family and is marrying down, she is naturally heartbroken. If it were an ordinary family, it would be one thing she could just bring both daughters back home to raise. But, although his rank isn't high, he is still an official after all. Though the Duke's manor is a prestigious and illustrious family, they can't want both. Otherwise, the next day, the censor's impeachment memorials will fly onto the emperor's desk, exchanging the two families back. Then recognizing each other as sworn relatives is already the best outcome. After her emotions settled, she looked at me and said, "From now on, I'll be your mother. You'll return with me to the Duke's manor, and in the future you'll marry into a prince's household. So you must be cautious in all matters." I nodded slightly. "Let me ask you, what books have you read? Music, chess, calligraphy, and painting? How many of these have you practiced?" The Duke's wife came from the prestigious Wang clan, had read extensively through classics since childhood, was exceptionally talented, and placed great importance on this aspect. In my previous life, she had also asked me such questions. Not wanting my birth mother to look down on me, I racked my brain, dug out book titles that seemed familiar, and reported them. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, she wanted to test me, asking about the allusions behind certain passages. Naturally, I hemmed and hawed, unable to answer. The look in her eyes as she regarded me was full of disappointment. Not a shred of learning, spouting nonsense. How could my daughter be like this? After that, she treated me with much coldness. From then on, I studied diligently every day, wanting my birth mother to be proud of me too. The night I was sent out of the capital, I thought to myself, the birth mother who would treat me that way, just because I lacked literary knowledge, could be so tolerant and protective toward Gu Yuncheng, who violated the sage's teachings of propriety. Only then did I understand it was never that I did something wrong, but that her heart was crooked from the start. This lifetime, naturally I can't be bothered to make up for it, so I told the truth. I know some characters, but I don't know anything about music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. In my previous life at this time, I was indeed like this. After hearing this, the Duke's wife furrowed her brows. You are actually this ignorant and unskilled. I lowered my eyebrows and looked down obediently. The Xia family isn't like the Duke's manor. Father's monthly salary isn't much, and there are 2 brothers at home who need to take the imperial examinations. There is no money for me to learn music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. After hearing this, Wang Shi's anger gradually subsided, but the way she looked at me carried some reproach. Are you complaining about the Xia family? No matter what, they at least raised you. What I mean is, you don't need to compare me with Gu Yunchang. Even oranges differ when grown in the south versus the north, let alone people. Those things she knows. I don't know any of them. On the first day arriving at the manor, the Duke's wife got off the carriage and walked away briskly. Clearly, she was quite angered by me. The Duke of England heard from the servants what we had said in the carriage and let out a long sigh. I know you hold resentment toward us, but you shouldn't speak to your mother like that. I followed behind him, my expression impassive. It is mother who has unrealistic expectations of me. The Duke of England brought me to meet the 3 elder brothers, the heir apparent Gu Ju, the second young master Ju Zheng, and the 3rd young master Gu Yu. As soon as Gu Zheng saw father, he looked behind him. Where is little sister? Didn't little sister come back with you? Naturally, I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to think this little sister was referring to me. In my previous life, when I first met these 3 people, their attitudes were fairly friendly, and they each gave me gifts. I treasured them like precious jewels. Who would have known that later on? I merely played on the swing in the courtyard, and when Gu Zheng saw it, he flew into a rage. This is the swing I built for little sister? Who gave you permission to sit on it? When I delivered calligraphy and paintings to Gu Yu, he accidentally knocked over one of his inkstones and was met with his cold rebuke. This is the birthday gift little sister gave me. Did you do it on purpose? Even the Duke's heir Gu Ju, who in outsiders' eyes was upright and proper, warned me more than once to stop scheming against Gu Yunsheng. No matter how I tried to explain or defend myself, they all believed I was unfriendly toward Gu Yunsheng. Later, Gu Yunsheng even comforted me, saying she was bullied when she was young, and her brothers had grown accustomed to protecting her, so they were overly suspicious of everything. She also said that given enough time, they would eventually see my good qualities. So I spent years trying to please these 3 brothers, and whenever I had something nice, I would always think to send them a share. But how did they treat me? They intercepted and beat to death the trusted aide I sent to deliver a message to the Chu Prince's manor. They kidnapped me back when I was about to report this adulterous couple. They warned me that if I dared to make a move against Gu Yunsheng, they wouldn't tolerate me either. The Chu Prince's heir died on the battlefield, a loyal and heroic body. Gu Yunsheng keeping her widowhood for him makes her a royal widow. But if her scandalous affair got out, as a royal woman committing adultery, forget her reputation, even her life would be hard to preserve. So, they chose to suppress me. Before Yunsheng married out, she was staying at the Xia manor. The Duke of Ying pushed me forward. This is your younger sister, she came back with me. Just like in my previous life, the 3 of them also gave gifts, and I addressed each one in turn. The atmosphere was fairly harmonious, and the Duke of Ying nodded with satisfaction. Although your sister didn't grow up with you 3 brothers, she is still your flesh and blood. In the future when she marries into the prince's manor, you must look out for each other. Hearing these words, all 3 of their expressions changed. Gu Ju frowned tightly. Isn't it Yunsheng who is marrying into the Chu prince's manor? The Duke of Ying said this matter was strongly requested by Gu Yunsheng, and both families had agreed. For a moment, all 3 brothers fell silent. After finishing his instructions, the Duke of Ying said he still had matters to attend to and told them to show me around the Duke's manor. As soon as the Duke of Ying left, the true faces of the 3 were exposed. The straightforward Zheng spoke first. Did you say something to Yunsheng? I shook my head. I didn't say anything. Guzheng didn't believe me. If you hadn't said something to Yun Shang given her feelings for the Chu prince's heir, how could she voluntarily offer to give the marriage to you? Didn't I also give my marriage arrangement to her? I looked puzzled. Each returning to their rightful place. What is the problem? You are thinking too simply about this. Guju frowned. What kind of prestigious family is the Chu prince's manor? Yun Shang has always had a reputation for talent, and is the princess's study companion. This marriage arrangement is known even to the nobles in the palace. How can it be changed just like that? Is that so? I smiled indifferently. Compared to the blood ties with the duke's manor, these things seem insignificant. Guzheng was so angry he was about to step forward, but was stopped by the calm-looking Gu Yu. Yeah, I admit, you are our real sister, but Yun Shang grew up in the duke's manor since childhood, and grew up together with us. So she is a daughter of the duke's manor. I hope you can think clearly about what entering the Chu prince's manor means, and also think carefully about whether you can bear the responsibility of being the heir's consort of the Chu prince's manor. After settling down in the courtyard, I recalled Gu Yu's words. What entering the Chu prince's manor means, of course I know. The Duke of Ying's wife and the Chu princess were once close friends in their boudoir. When this marriage was arranged, the Chu prince's heir was still young. I wasn't yet born, and the Chu prince was still a vassal king guarding the Chu region. However, during the previous emperor's reign, natural disasters and man-made calamities continued, with uprisings among the people that attacked the capital and nearly caused its fall. It was the Chu prince who led troops to arrive, traveling day and night, and quelled the rebellion. After that, the previous emperor trusted the Chu prince tremendously, and even 10 years ago on his deathbed, commanded him to serve as regent, assisting the Empress Dowager in raising the young emperor. The Chu prince's power reached its peak, continuing until now, but the young emperor would eventually grow up, and the Chu prince would sooner or later have to return political power. Later it indeed turned out this way. Not long after the Chu prince's heir died on the battlefield, the Chu prince also died from a relapse of an old illness. Returning political power was a matter of course. In the vast Chu prince's manor, only one Gu Yunsheng remained, keeping her chastity for the deceased heir. What role does this position play in all of this? Despite the Gu family brothers' repeated efforts, the marriage arrangement ultimately could not be salvaged. At the family banquet, everyone's faces looked rather unpleasant, and Mother's expression was also indifferent. In front of relatives from all sides, Father publicly announced my identity. The aunt from the third branch took my hand, her face full of regret. Look at our fourth miss, raised into such a state in someone else's home. I heard she nearly got kidnapped by child traffickers when she was young. Yet the eldest sister-in-law treats that family's child like her precious treasure, giving her whatever she wants. This shows that the saying about mother-daughter bond isn't entirely true. At these words, Mother's face turned ashen. I lowered my head and said nothing. These remarks not only said I was inferior to Gu Yunsheng, but also implied that the Duke of England's wife mistook a fisheye for a pearl, making wedding clothes for others. Before the matter between me and Gu Yunsheng was exposed, the one who always managed to upset this birth mother, who was used to smooth sailing, was none other than the aunt from the third branch. She came from a wealthy merchant family, supporting the current Duke of England's estate with her vast fortune. The old lady doted on her third son, and loving him extended her favor to his wife as well. Moreover, since the Duke of England's wife had a aloof temperament and didn't understand worldly matters, in the inner quarters of the Duke's estate, the one constantly praised by relatives and servants was this third aunt. The two had never gotten along. Now being mocked for not even recognizing her own daughter, the Duke of England's wife could no longer maintain even a forced smile. As soon as the banquet ended, she gave the order to confine me to the courtyard, commanding me to study books and learn household management, sleeping at the third watch and rising at the fifth watch. I immediately went to find Father, the Duke of Ying, to complain, looking pitiful. I've just returned to the manor and haven't yet had time to properly spend with father, mother, and my brothers. But mother has already imposed such strict orders on me. Your daughter can't take it." The Duke of Ying let out a light sigh. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your mother is indeed being too hasty. I lowered my head. Daughter knows she is not as good as sister Yunsheng. Since returning to the manor, mother, and my brothers don't like me. Only you, father, are my side. The Duke of Ying patted my shoulder. Time reveals a person's heart. You and Yunsheng are both good children. As long as you let them see that, they'll come to accept you eventually. I looked up with teary eyes. How can I make mother and my brothers love me the way they love Yunsheng? Jingru is slow-witted. Please instruct me clearly, father. The Duke of Ying smiled without speaking, his expression somewhat meaningful. Now is not the right time yet. When the appropriate moment comes, father will tell you. Complaining to father completely enraged mother. She had people take back those things, then sent a maid to admonish me. Madam says, since you don't want madam to manage you, then she won't. In the future, when you marry into the prince's manor, whatever happens, handle it yourself and bear the consequences, good or bad. I thought to myself, I couldn't be happier. But my expression showed some panic. When the 3 Gu brothers saw me in the manor, they ignored my greetings. Before long, everyone in the Duke's manor knew that the real 4th Miss had fallen out of favor as soon as she returned home on the first day of the month. When some servants gossiped about it in private, they were caught red-handed by the Duke, who sternly reprimanded them before selling them off and expelling them from the manor. The winds in the manor shifted again, with people saying that although this 4th Miss wasn't liked by the mistress or the young masters, she had the Duke's favor. The Duke was the one whose word was law in this manor. Days passed like this, and the wedding date drew near. Before the marriage, the Duke of Ying summoned me to his study. Do you still remember what I told you that day? Right now at court, the Prince of Chu monopolizes power and is His Majesty's greatest worry. If you marry into the Prince of Chu's manor and can help His Majesty eliminate this treacherous threat, then not only your mother and brothers, but all under heaven will praise your righteous deed. My heart shook. So that is how it was so in my previous life. This was the role Gu Yuncheng played. When that time comes, you'll receive an official rank, wealth and glory beyond measure. Wealth and glory beyond measure. A faint smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Really, in my previous life, the Prince of Chu's forces were indeed eliminated completely. But what was the result? To cover up his own hand in destroying the Prince of Chu's manor. His Majesty never once mentioned any reward for her. Gu Yuncheng merely became the devoted woman keeping widow for her husband who died in battle. In contrast, the Duke's manor, which had been in decline since my father's generation, thrived after that, with father and my 3 brothers all receiving important positions. As a royal widow, Gu Yunsheng was not even allowed to leave her door, and could only go out under the pretense of visiting relatives. It was precisely with this excuse of visiting relatives that she often came to the manor and had a secret relationship with Jomo. This really is a thankless job. No wonder after her rebirth, Gu Yunsheng didn't want to take on this task and passed it to me. Aunt's imperial power is consolidated, and the emperor favors the Duke of Ying's manor and Jomo. She can just sit back and enjoy the benefits. Just like I was in her eyes in the previous life. But she doesn't know that I've also been reborn. I didn't get to enjoy the benefits from the Duke of Ying's manor. Like she did, my death in the previous life was even orchestrated by the Duke of Ying's manor. The Shi family, Jomo and her, things that benefit them, why would I do them? Finally, the wedding day arrived. The marriage of the Prince of Chu's heir required all the proper ceremonies, which took a long time. The other end of the red silk was connected to the Prince of Chu's heir, Ring Chengyuan. During the ceremony, you recalled my conversation with the Duke of Ying that day. I asked him, "Does mother and my 3 elder brothers know about what you've assigned me to do?" The Duke of Ying pondered. This matter is dangerous. The fewer who know, the better. Your mother and brothers naturally don't know about it. No wonder they all hoped Gu Yunsheng would marry into the Prince of Chu's manor, truly thinking it was a good match. However, through the red veil, he looked toward the emperor seated in the place of honor. For his cousin, the Prince of Chu's heir's wedding banquet, the emperor naturally attended as well. He is only 13 years old now, not yet of age to personally govern. No wonder the Prince of Chu's manor had no defenses in my previous life. No one could have imagined the emperor would move against it this early. Watch your step, the person beside me reminded in a calm voice, pulling me back from my thoughts. I snapped back to attention and bowed along with him again. In my previous life, I never met this heir to the Prince of Chu, eyeing Cheng Yuan. I only remember that 2 months after he married Gu Yunsheng, he went on a northern expedition and then died in battle. After completing the elaborate rituals, once inside the room, I let out a soft breath of relief. All of you may leave. Ying Chengyuan spoke, and the servants in the room withdrew. Those embroidered boots drew closer and closer. The red bridal veil was lifted, and I saw clearly the person before me. His features were stern, his eyes like cold stars. The first impression he gave was one of cold hardness. Even dressed in red wedding attire, there wasn't a trace of softness to be seen. Still looking at him, I somehow felt a sense of familiarity. Ying Chengyuan lifted the veil, but showed no intention of drinking the nuptial wine. He lowered his eyes and spoke. This marriage was my late mother's dying wish. I will give you the dignity befitting an heir consort. As for the rest, let things take their natural course. While I was still in a daze, he arranged the bedding on the spacious canopy bed. He placed a stack of quilts as a divider, like the boundary between Chu and Han. From now on, we'll rest like this. After saying this, Ying Chengyuan proceeded to undress on his own and prepared to sleep. Was Ying Chengyuan like this with Gu Yunsheng in his previous life too? Or is he expressing his dissatisfaction with the change of the heir's consort? Thinking this, I feigned disappointment and asked, is the heir dissatisfied with me and still thinking about my sister? I heard he and Gu Yunsheng were childhood sweethearts. Ying Chengyuan frowned slightly. Your sister is. Before he could finish, I lowered my head and wiped away tears. That is fine. This marriage was originally my sister's anyway. I heard you and my sister are childhood sweethearts. So I'll go tell the prince right now to switch my sister back for you. With that, I made to leave. A crack appeared in Ying Chengyuan's calm composure as he quickly pulled me back. What nonsense is this? Childhood sweethearts with whom? How come this heir knows nothing about it? I lowered my eyes. Everyone says that Sister Yunsheng was appointed as the princess's study companion since childhood and has known you in the palace since you were both young. I grew up in Chu, only came to the capital occasionally when young, and didn't move here permanently until I was 11. The person you mentioned, though I know of her, I am not really familiar with her, much less childhood sweethearts. He paused, looked at me, and finally spoke to comfort me. You and I are already married. Let's not bring up the past anymore. Father is busy with state affairs every day. Don't bother him with matters of our bedchamber. Having gotten my answer, I obediently nodded. All right. If it is not about the marriage partner, then it is Ying Chengyuan's own problem. Could he have some hidden ailment? After paying respects to my father-in-law, the power to manage the inner residence fell into my hands. My mother-in-law passed away early, and there weren't many women in the Prince of Chu's residence anyway. So managing things was actually much easier than the chaotic Zhou family from my previous life. It is just that obtaining control of the inner residence so easily made me feel somewhat unreal. Crown Princess next month's food ingredients and spices for the kitchen. Your and the master's clothing, incense and tea. The master's writing materials and sword maintenance expenses, all the lists are here. Please take a look and see if anything is missing. The steward handed over the records, and I took them and glanced through. Why has the price of cloud mist incense increased? The steward said. This cloud mist incense, one of its ingredient sources, suffered a disaster, so the supply can't keep up, which is why it costs more now. Then let's switch to something else. I thought for a moment. I heard Linlang Pavilion has released several new incenses. Go buy some of each variety and let the Crown Prince try them first, ask him what he thinks. The steward nodded and made a note. I thought again and added, now that the season is changing, the flowers in the garden and indoors have all wilted somewhat. I think they should be replaced too. The steward nodded and made a note. The Duke of Ying's residence has someone who is quite skilled at managing gardens. I'll write to father right away and have him sent over. After giving instructions on various matters, I returned to my room. The old nanny who had been silently following by my side spoke up. Doing so much all at once. Won't it be too obvious? I lazily opened my mouth. A new official applies 3 fires upon taking office. Woman in the rear residence tending to flowers and plants. Playing with incense, these are all common matters. What is so strange about it? Moreover, looking at those items individually, how could anyone find fault with them? Nanny, you have a guilty conscience. The Duke of Ying, fearing I wouldn't handle matters properly, specially sent a spy over to keep watch on me. How annoying, the Momo said in a low voice. No matter what, Miss should be more cautious. Their ambitions are great, and they're not that easy to deal with. I neither agreed nor disagreed. If the Prince of Chu's manor truly harbored treasonous intentions early on, in my previous life they wouldn't have held military power yet, failed to even reach the step of raising an army before being bloodlessly eliminated by the one on the dragon throne. This incense burner, the flowers and plants, looking at them individually, or even in combination, there is nothing wrong. What is fatal is the fragrance on the clothing. Only when the 3 are combined can they produce toxicity. Long-term use for a month or 2 would leave one's mind muddled and reactions sluggish. This wouldn't be fatal. But if it were on the battlefield, that would be different. In my previous life, the Northern Dai invasion happened 2 months later. Right now, there is not a single bit of news about it. So how did that person know about it in advance? I fell into deep thought. Just like in my previous life, 2 months later on a certain day, a messenger from the border city reported that the Northern D had invaded, and 1 city had already fallen. The court was shaken, and the emperor held court sessions for 3 consecutive days to determine the candidate for the general who pacifies the north. Prince Ying Chengyuan, heir, a parent of the Chu kingdom, raised in military camps since childhood. He followed his father to the battlefield to suppress rebellions at 13. With outstanding military achievements. It couldn't be more suitable. Before leaving, he said somewhat apologetically, "Once I leave this time, I don't know when I'll be able to return. I am sorry to trouble you to help me hold down the Shu Prince's manor and take care of father. It is no trouble." I helped him straighten his collar. "Your lordship must be careful on this trip especially." I leaned closer to him, sensing his body stiffen in that instant. Under my hands, the collar at the back of his neck was adjusted once more. "Be careful of Bai Chung and Zhao Ling Hong." Leaning close to his ear, I kept my voice extremely soft. Yang Chengyuan's pupils contracted sharply as he lowered his head to meet my eyes. In my previous life, when Ying Chengyuan left on this trip, what came back was his corpse, along with Zhao Linghong's statement. Zhao Linghong said that in this battle, Ying Chengyuan had recklessly taken dangerous risks, nearly dragging the entire army down with him. Fortunately, he and Bai Chung had turned the tide and preserved the military forces. It was just that Ying Chengyuan had brought it upon himself, ultimately dying on the battlefield. Zhao Linghong was a former subordinate of the Chu prince, who had once addressed the Chu prince as brother. Bai Chung was the Chu prince's adopted son, and had also grown up together with Ying Chengyuan. In the end, these 2 received rewards. Ying Chengyuan, being a member of the imperial family and having died on the battlefield, was exempted from punishment by the emperor, and reluctantly acknowledged as a loyal martyr. However, the reputation of the Chu prince's manor was ultimately ruined. Both besieged by trusted people. How similar our circumstances were in our previous lives. Before Ying Chengyuan left, he looked at me deeply. I returned a faint smile. Not long after Ying Chengyuan left, the Shi family sent out wedding invitations. The marriage between Zhou Mo and Gu Yunsheng was put on the agenda. No, wait, she should be called She Yunsheng now. As sworn kin of the She family, everyone from the Duke of Ying's household was on the guest list. On the wedding day, Zhou Mo wore his festive robes and held one end of a red silk ribbon with Shi Yunsheng, his face beaming with unstoppable joy. In my past life, when he married me, did he smile so happily? I don't remember. Speaking of how Zhou Mo and I met, it was the year I returned from Chu when I was 8. While staying at my maternal grandparents' home, I got lost at a lantern festival and ran into child traffickers. I nearly got sold. Though I was eventually rescued, I was left with nightmares. Father had no choice but to bring me back to the capital and send me to a clinic for treatment. That clinic belonged to Zhou Mo's family. He was only 2 years older than me, and knowing what I'd been through, he always patiently comforted me, gradually growing close to me. Back then Father's official position was lower, and we lived in a small alley, just 2 streets away from his family. Not being from any noble family, naturally there weren't strict rules about boys and girls keeping apart when we were young, so playing together was only natural. We were childhood sweethearts. When we grew up, he passed the Shanghai exam, and Father thought highly of him, so the 2 of us became engaged just like that. But in my past life, after we married, he got Shi Yunsheng pregnant, and when I pressed him for answers, he painfully begged me to let them be together. When I was young, I was trapped on the street by a torrential downpour. She passed by in a horse carriage and had her maid hand me an umbrella. That fleeting glimpse became his obsession. Zhou Mo smiled bitterly. When I learned that she and you had switched identities, I even secretly fantasized whether the engagement could be switched as well. Fate plays tricks on us. Now she carries my child, and I only ask for this child. Jingsu, I beg you to claim this child as your own, just for my sake. Such heartfelt sincerity indeed. They were true love. So what was I? And there was my child, just discovered, and not yet 2 months old, buried together with me beneath the mud flow. In this world, no one but me knew he had ever existed. I watched coldly as the 2 of them walked past hand in hand. When buried, my chest suffocated, blood gushing beneath me. I used all my strength to cry for help. That is how I died. Half a year later, Ying Chengyuan achieved a great victory and returned triumphantly to the capital. During the merit rewards, he presented testimony, exposing Vice General Bai Cheng's collusion with Zhao Linghong and the Northern Dai leaking defense maps. Shocking the court and public after investigation, the emperor threw them in prison. When Ying Chengyuan returned to the residence, he was full of murderous aura. He stepped forward, wanting to remove his cloak, but my wrist was tightly gripped. He stared into my eyes. How did you know? How I knew doesn't matter. What matters is that your highness has returned safe and sound. Ying Chengyuan's hand loosened, and I continued helping him remove his cloak. I haven't congratulated your highness yet on fighting such a splendid battle, Ying Chengyuan said in a low voice. If not for your reminder, it would have been difficult. Was it the Duke of Ying? He lowered his head and asked. I neither confirmed nor denied it. Ying Chengyuan remained silent for a long while. I interrogated them. Zhao Linghong said they tried to persuade Father to rebel several times, but Father was unwilling. He also said that sitting in that position, whether he wanted to or not, there would be no good ending. They didn't want to follow Father and become fish on the chopping block, so they became that person's blade instead. What about you? He lowered his head to look at me. You clearly had the chance to be the blade. Husband and wife are one body. I don't want to be the blade, and even less do I want to be fish on the chopping block. I asked him. What about your highness? Is your highness willing to be fish on the chopping block? Ying Chengyuan's eyes dimmed slightly as he lowered his head and grasped my hand. Silence spoke louder than words. A few days later, Shi Yunsheng suddenly sent a visiting card, inviting me to burn incense at Qingfeng Temple. I kept the appointment on time. Upon arriving at Qingfeng Temple, after just a few pleasantries, She led me to the dense forest behind the mountain. She got straight to the point. You've been reborn too, haven't you? I feigned confusion. What are you talking about, sister? I don't understand. Stop pretending. Shi Yunsheng said through gritted teeth. Why didn't Ying Chengyuan die this time? Did you even properly do what father entrusted you with? If you had done it, how could things turn out so differently from before? Unless you've also been reborn and went out of your way to do something else. I lowered my eyes. Since elder sister has already guessed it, why ask again? Even though she had already guessed it, upon receiving a definite answer, Jiansheng still couldn't believe it. She cried out in shock. Are you crazy? Have you forgotten whose man father is? Seeing my unconcerned expression, Jiansheng became somewhat anxious. Even if I wronged you before, your death was a natural disaster. You can't blame it on us. Right now our interests are aligned. Only when the Duke's manor is well can we be well. Don't you understand? Wrong? I shook my head with a smile. It has always been when the Duke's manor is well. You are well, but I've never been well. Ziyunsheng was at a loss for words. How can you be so selfish? In my past life I sacrificed myself for the greater good. Didn't that benefit you and Jomo? Now it should be your turn. Why are you unwilling? Over some trivial matter, you want to betray the Duke's manor? Ziyunsheng's eyes were full of disappointment. If you persist in your delusion, don't blame me for telling father. She turned to leave, but I called her back. Ziyunsheng. She turned sideways, her tone mocking. What, do you regret it now? But regret is too late. You've ruined the perfect opportunity when father finds out. Before she finished speaking, her body swayed a bit, stumbling back 2 steps. You, Gu Jingshu, what did you do? What did I do? I can only say, incense is a good thing. No wonder that Supreme One of the 9-5 also likes to use incense. I was actually still thinking about when to go find you. I crouched down to meet her eyes. Who knew you'd come looking for me yourself? Power struggles for the throne, lives are at stake at every turn. This world can have someone with rebirth, but it cannot have 2 opposing people with rebirth. This means that today, between her and me, only one can return unscathed. What do you want to do? You dare lay a hand on me? Ziyunsheng collapsed to the ground, using all her strength to clutch at my sleeve. If you dare touch me, mother and my brother won't let you off. Only if they find out. Sleep now, don't be afraid. My tone was soothing. After all, we were sisters. I promise you won't suffer too much. Ziyunsheng's lips trembled, unable to say another word, and reluctantly closed her eyes. Ziyunsheng went to Qingfeng Temple to offer incense, and on the way back to the capital, encountered a group of bandits and fell off a cliff. The Xie family's attendants managed to escape by luck, and returned to report the news. Both the Duke's manor and the Xie family were thrown into chaos, hurriedly sending people to search. But they only found a broken veil hat at the foot of the mountain, along with scattered female skeletal remains. The Duke's wife fainted from crying, and after regaining consciousness, went straight to the Chu prince's manor. I stepped forward to pay my respects. Mother. Before I could finish, my cheeks stung with pain as a slap came down on my face. The taste of blood surged in my mouth. I turned my face away, my tone wooden. Mother, what are you doing? The Duke's wife pointed at me. Her eyes bloodshot. Isn't it enough that you caused Yunsheng to marry down into the Xi family? Must you also take her life? My eyes narrowed slightly, almost thinking she had detected something. But, she continued emotionally, if it weren't for going to Qingfeng Temple with you, how would Yunsheng have encountered such a disaster on her way back? Ever since you returned, not a single thing has gone smoothly in this household. If I had known, I shouldn't have. The Duke of Ying's wife speaks incorrectly. Ying Chengyuan stepped into the hall, and seeing the finger marks on my face, his eyes darkened slightly. Not to mention it was my wife's elder sister who took the initiative to invite her. When she returned to the capital, the Shizi consort was still at Qingfeng Temple, requesting an evil-dispelling protective talisman for this Shizi. They weren't on the same route. So, what does this matter have to do with her? Bandits have been rampant lately, and the court is investigating. I too deeply regret my wife's elder sister's unfortunate tragedy. Ying Chengyuan raised his eyes, his tone shifting. But this is not a reason for the Shizi consort to suffer your interrogation. The duke's wife's chest heaved as she glared furiously. I am disciplining my own daughter. Must the Shizi interfere in this too? The Shizi consort has now married into the Chu prince's manor, so she is a member of the royal family. Ying Chengyuan stepped forward. Though you bear an imperial mandate, you still have no grounds to strike the Shizi consort in my presence. Wouldn't you agree? The duke's wife retreated 2 steps, said good 3 times in succession, and left with a flick of her sleeves. Thank you, Shizi. The bow I had begun was stopped by Ying Chengyuan. He stared at the red swelling on my face, his brows furrowing slightly. How come it looks even worse than before? I'll have someone fetch a physician. The physician came to examine me, took out a small porcelain bottle, and said the medicine needed to be applied daily. Just as I was about to take it, the porcelain bottle landed in Ying Chengyuan's hand first. He waved the person away and sat down by the bed. Is this the reason you are unwilling to do things for them? I nodded. There was nothing wrong with admitting this. Ying Chengyuan fell silent for a moment, then opened the porcelain bottle. He dipped his finger in some ointment and was about to gently apply it to my face. I tilted my head slightly, dodging it. Your Highness, you don't need to do this. I can do it myself. Ying Chengyuan's movements paused. He stared at me, asking word by word. Do you think I am trying to buy people's loyalty? I remained silent. Ying Chengyuan stared at me for 2 seconds, then rather forcefully dabbed the ointment on, though his movements were still fairly gentle. You said it yourself, husband and wife are one. I don't need to do that. The cool ointment was spread evenly, and the burning sensation on my face eased quite a bit. Looking at his face so close to mine, I stopped resisting. That person in the dungeon, what do you plan to do with her? He asked. He was talking about Shi Yunsheng. She naturally wasn't dead yet, just replaced by a body double with a similar build who had put on a show. She still has her uses. At least I still didn't know how Shi Yunsheng had died in her previous life. If we say the Duke of Ying has no genuine feelings for me at all, only exploitation, then for her he still has about 3 parts genuine feelings and 7 parts exploitation. Both caught up in this game. What she knew in her past life must be more than what I know. I have to pry all of this out of her mouth. As for the possibility that she won't talk, I've never even considered it. Shi Yunsheng is someone who has been spoiled since childhood and can't endure even the slightest hardship. If she were willing to sacrifice herself for others, I'd actually respect her a bit for that. In her past life, she was schemed against by Shi Yunsheng in league with the Duke's manor, and her own ex-husband drugged, abandoned in a mudslide to die miserably, tasting the full coldness of familial affection and others' selfishness. Reborn in this life, she saw through Shi Yunsheng's fatal weakness at a glance, spoiled since childhood into a pampered noble lady who can't bear even the slightest hardship. She understands her opponent too well. Shi Yunsheng's selfishness and indulgence means she can't withstand any suffering and absolutely won't keep her mouth shut for others. This isn't mindless cruelty, but rather the female lead's penetrating understanding of human nature. After experiencing betrayal, what she has always hated wasn't the arranged marriage swap itself, but Shi Yunsheng's usurpation of her place and the Duke's manor's partiality and exploitation. Her blade is aimed only at those who once pushed her into hell. The Duke of Ying also attended the funeral at the Zhou family. He pressed his lips together, wearing an expression of deep bitterness and resentment. With his beloved daughter dead and the emperor's scheme fallen through, he'd been facing setbacks everywhere lately. He summoned me and issued another task. Place these letters in Ying Chengyuan's study. Letters? I reached out and took them. These letters bore the seal of the Northern Dai leader, and the general meaning was that they agreed to exchange military weapons for a troop withdrawal. The handwriting on them was forged to look like Ying Chengyuan's. This was to frame Ying Chengyuan for colluding with the Northern DI during this war. This was a grave crime punishable by the extermination of one's entire family. Seeing my hesitation, the Duke of Ying added, "Originally didn't want to bring this matter to the surface. But Bai Cheng and Zhao Linghong are both too useless. This plan won't implicate you. His Majesty has promised that if this succeeds, he'll grant you the position of Empress." The position of Empress? This was quite the investment. "Father, rest assured. Your daughter will not disappoint your expectations." The Duke of Ying nodded, then suddenly let out a sigh. "I heard about what happened that day." "Your mother really? How can she blame you for Yunsheng's bad luck?" "I've already spoken to her about it. In a few days come back to the Duke's manor, and let's have a proper family gathering, shall we?" The Duke of Ying asked tentatively, clearly worried that I might harbor resentment toward the Duke's manor because of this incident. I nodded. Sure, watching them force smiles at me under the Duke of Ying's instructions should be quite interesting. That very day after the meal, summoning from the dungeon came to report that Xian Shang wanted to say something. She had volunteered to speak since her imprisonment. No one had interrogated her. No one had tortured her. They had simply kept her locked up, sending her some food each day. The food that was delivered went from 3 times a day, slowly reduced to once a day, then to once every 2 days. This time it had been over 2 days, and the meals still hadn't been delivered. Xi Yunsheng couldn't take it anymore. She suspected she had already been forgotten, suspected that I was going to lock her up and starve her to death. So she decided to bring out her bargaining chip, to make me remember her. "I need to eat first." I raised an eyebrow. "I need to know first what you want to say." Xi Yunsheng's face was pale, clutching her stomach. "Don't you want to know? That person who is only 13 years old? Who is helping him do all this?" I remained unmoved. With the Prince of Chu's manor's power, what should be known will be known sooner or later. In this contest, if that person had the strength to go head-to-head with the Prince of Chu's manor, there would be no need to resort to those tactics. "Anything else you want to say? If not, I am leaving." "Wait." Jiansheng panicked. "Don't you want to know what happened after you died? Things that will change in this life? There is nothing worth knowing about them." I didn't turn my head back and continued walking toward the door. Shi Yunsheng bit her lip and called out to stop me. "I'll tell you, Gu Jingsu. I'll tell you, but after you hear it, you have to let me out." She took a deep breath. By the emperor's side, there is a eunuch who tends to writing materials named Liu Quan. He devises strategies, helping the emperor eliminate the Prince of Chu, and has since gained even more favor, stirring up storms in the imperial court. Xi Yunsheng said with some difficulty. Father and Zhou were framed by him. Both were thrown in prison, and the entire family was exiled. EFF'd hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What are you laughing at?" Xi Yunsheng said angrily. I wiped the tears of laughter from the corners of my eyes. "I thought it was some kind of splendid future that made you, even after starting over, remain so devoted. That is it? What do you know?" Xi Yunsheng retorted with a pale face. "Father only made one wrong step, which gave others leverage against him. If we start over, with my foreknowledge, how do you know father won't win? It is still better than that cold Ying Chengyuan. He is impotent even if he wins. So what?" Xi Yunsheng urged me somewhat anxiously. "You continue helping father and the emperor. Once things are settled, I'll have father get rid of Liu Quan. By then, what tremendous wealth and glory the Duke's manor will have. Don't be so stubborn." I nodded. That makes sense. Xi Yunsheng's face lit up with joy. I called someone over and instructed, "Bring her some food." The table was soon piled with dishes, fragrant and appetizing, making one's mouth water. Xi Yunsheng beamed with delight. Halfway through eating, she suddenly remembered something. "If you are still infatuated with Brother Zhou, when the time comes, I am not unwilling to share him with you. I let out a light scoff, shook my head, and left. Gu Jingshu, who said you could leave, didn't you promise to let me out? I left that voice behind and exited the dungeon. Half a quarter hour later, the jailer came to report that the person in the cell had stopped breathing. I let out a soft sigh. After all, it is a bond spanning 2 lifetimes, so I used the least tormenting poison. If she can be reborn again, I hope she'll be smarter in her next life. Liu Quan. Looking at this name written on the desk, I fell into deep thought. In my previous life, Zhou Mo was highly valued by the emperor, and he seemed to have mentioned this eunuch Liu. This person is an enormous corrupt official. What strikes me most is the emotional contrast in this passage. Regarding Xiansheng's fate, there is a light and breezy sigh, but toward Liu Quan, this new opponent, there is solemn and focused contemplation. With just a few strokes, the female lead's state of mind is portrayed with penetrating depth. She is not a cold-blooded avenger who cheats her way through everything. Facing an opponent entangled with her across 2 lifetimes, she has the calm reflection that belongs to a human being. But in the chess game of court intrigue, she can immediately set aside her emotions and maintain a high degree of clarity and calculation. Moreover, this passage is masterful at planting threads. It wraps up Xiansheng's character arc while immediately throwing out Liu Quan as the new boss, instantly maximizing the layered feel of the plot. It shifts from resolving immediate personal vendettas to confronting deeper dark forces in the court. That step-by-step strategic feeling is truly addictive. Your Majesty, this subject wishes to accuse the Prince of Chu's heir of colluding with foreign enemies, supplying them with military weapons. I beseech your Majesty to investigate clearly. On a bright and sunny morning, the Duke of Ying took the lead in attacking the Prince of Chu's manor. Audacious Duke of Ying! The Emperor slammed the table. Do you know what your words mean? You are accusing my cousin, who just rendered outstanding service in the Northern Campaign. The Duke of England knelt down to pledge his oath and presented a letter. This was found by my daughter, the princess consort of the Chu prince. In the study, she righteously turned against her own family and gave it to me. There are many more such letters in the study. Your Majesty can send someone to search and verify the truth. The accused party showed no sign of panic whatsoever, because when the Emperor sent people to search, they found nothing. Impossible! The Duke of England panicked a bit. The prince must have prepared in advance and hidden the letters. Your Majesty can summon the princess consort to testify. I was summoned to the court to testify. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I played dumb on the spot. What is father talking about? I don't understand. What letters? When did I ever give you any letters? Hearing this, the Duke of England's eyes nearly split with rage. Gu Jingshu. Have you gone mad? Before the Emperor? You dare to show favoritism. I shook my head. I am just telling the truth. How is that showing favoritism? After all, you are also my father. If such a thing really happened, and I didn't admit it, wouldn't that make you someone who frames the loyal? You gave birth to me. So if I were to show favoritism, I should favor you. Well said. A censor from the court stepped forward to assist, presenting account books. Your Majesty, this subject wishes to impeach the Duke of Ying for embezzlement. 18 years ago, the Duke of Ying was ordered to construct the Fengcheng Dam, but he embezzled over 10,000 from the disaster relief funds. The following year, the flood breached the dam, leaving tens of thousands of disaster victims homeless. 17 years ago, the rebel leader who attacked the capital was from Fengcheng. He turned to rebellion after that flood. Nonsense. The Duke of Ying hastily refuted. This matter could be said to have struck his fatal weakness. I've always had a question I couldn't figure out. The Duke of Ying's wife and the princess consort of Chu were close friends in their boudoir days. The Duke of Ying's manor and Prince Chu's manor were related by marriage. Since the Duke of Ying was greedy for power and influence, why would he bypass those close to him and go help His Majesty, whose power was still weak at the time? It wasn't until Ying Chengyuan had someone investigate that I learned he had no choice but to help. He had this matter held in His Majesty's hands. The matter of framing the Prince Chu's heir for colluding with the enemy hadn't been sorted out yet. And now an embezzlement case from over a decade ago was brought up. The face of the person on the dragon throne grew increasingly ugly. The Duke of Ying was already overwhelmed, but it wasn't over yet. Censor Wang, who had served 3 dynasties, stepped forward to impeach, presenting charges that there was a treacherous eunuch by His Majesty's side, who betrayed the country and colluded with enemies, murdered loyal subjects, and sowed discord between His Majesty and Prince Chu's uncle-nephew relationship. There was indeed someone colluding with the enemy. Liu Quan used military equipment and wealth as bait, coordinating from within with the northern wanting Ying Chengyuan to die on the battlefield, under the pretense of helping the emperor eliminate threats. And the emperor actually believed it. This person's scheming runs deep. In my previous life, he indeed succeeded. Even the later Duke of England fell to his hands, and the emperor was also controlled by him. If such a person is allowed to grow in power, who knows how terrifying he will become in the future? In the imperial court, a group of Prince Chu's people came forward one after another, saying they wanted to eliminate the treacherous officials around the emperor. After a whole morning of vigorous theatrics, it ended with the Duke of England and the eunuch Liu Quan being imprisoned. The emperor was still young after all. Seeing things weren't going his way and being pressured by the officials, he had no choice but to compromise. Although the outcome was good, the atmosphere in Prince Chu's manor showed no signs of improvement. Prince Chu and Ying Chengyuan had a quarrel. Prince Chu believed that the emperor was still young and had merely been deceived by treacherous people. Now that the traitors had been eliminated, their Prince Chu manor should stop well ahead and must never harbor disloyal intentions. Ying Chengyuan, however, felt that since the emperor had already disregarded familial affection and moved against them, he was only temporarily lying low and would inevitably make a comeback sooner or later. The two parted on very unpleasant terms. I comforted him. Father values familial affection. He'll come around eventually. Prince Chu and the late emperor were born of the same mother and grew up together, so their bond was naturally extraordinary. Moreover, he was entrusted by the late emperor with the care of the young ruler. To act this way would ultimately be defying all propriety. Ying Chengyuan looked at me deeply. I am afraid I don't have time to wait for him to come around. He grasped my hand. That day when you publicly switched sides, you already left an impression before the emperor. Now that the Duke of England and Liu Quan have been eliminated, but behind the emperor there is still the Empress Dowager. Whether they'll make a move against you, and when they'll make that move, are all unknowns. He pondered for a long while before reaching a conclusion. We must act before they do. Ying Chengyuan said this, and he did exactly that. He made his move behind the Prince of Chu's back. Within 7 days, the emperor passed away due to heart disease. By the time the Prince of Chu realized what happened, it was already a done deal. Since the late emperor had neither children nor brothers after deliberation, the ministers pushed the Prince of Chu, who had the closest bloodline, onto the throne. The emperor had no choice but to reluctantly accept. Ying Chengyuan was appointed as crown prince. When appointing the crown princess, a minister stood up in opposition. Your Highness, the heir apparent's consort's father, the Duke of England, was beheaded, and her relatives were all exiled. It's somewhat inappropriate for her to serve as crown princess. Ying Chengyuan's tone turned slightly cold. She rendered meritorious service by reporting them. If I say it is appropriate, then it is appropriate. Moreover, she grew up in the Xia household, and her name isn't on the Jiu family genealogy, so let's just consider her a daughter of the Xia family. The minister thought about it and agreed as long as the history books didn't record the crown princess as a criminal's daughter. What harm was there in recording her as part of the Xi family? It was like a pie falling from the sky for the Xi family. Before Father Xi could even celebrate, he was reassigned to Danzhou, and the entire family had to relocate. But the Shi family believed that the crown princess was theirs, and sooner or later, they would return to the capital and restore their family's honor. But they would never have a day to return. The British Duke and the Xia family both had their destinations arranged. Naturally, I wouldn't leave out Jomo sending him off to Huangzhou. If nothing unexpected happens, he won't be coming back either. Things have already reached this point. What should be mine, I naturally won't let go. I sent people to find a renowned physician to examine Ying Chengyuan. He was puzzled. I am perfectly healthy. What are you up to? Husband and wife are one body. Your Highness, please don't hide it from me, I said. Now your offspring is a matter of utmost importance. You must not avoid seeking treatment out of fear. Illness? Ying Chengyuan gripped my shoulders, laughing in anger. What illness do I have? Speak clearly. Your Highness doesn't engage in intimate relations. Isn't that because? Moreover, Zhi Yunsheng had also confirmed that he wasn't capable in that aspect. Who told you that not doing that means having an illness? I am just. Ying Chengyuan stopped mid-sentence, leaving room for imagination. I suddenly realized something. In both past and present lives, it was all the same. Perhaps he didn't have a problem in that aspect, but rather had someone in his heart. Times are different now. If your Highness likes someone, just bring her back as a concubine. Though I said this, I felt somewhat uncomfortable inside. Who do I like? He said with an unnatural expression. Don't you think it is a bit strange for a man and woman who just met and aren't familiar with each other to do that sort of thing? Strange? I hadn't thought about that. Thinking about it carefully, it does seem a bit. When we first got married, I originally thought to wait a few months to get familiar before. But then, I was away at war for half a year, and when I came back I was tied up with many things, so I had no time to think about that aspect. Now though, it is possible. You are right. Offspring is now the top priority. So shouldn't we take a look at the spring pictures and learn a bit? Learn. I suddenly understood. Turns out in this area, he was still a complete novice. No need. Ying Chengyuan lowered his eyes. Not yet, then you pick a suitable day. I leaned forward and pecked him lightly on the lips. No need to learn. I've seen them, I can teach your Highness. As for how effective the teaching was, I can only say, Ying Chengyuan was a good student. After learning, he became proficient, practicing day and night, seeking to improve. Ying Chengyuan's mother was buried in Chu region. Not long after the emperor ascended the throne, he posthumously bestowed her a title and moved her to the imperial mausoleum. During the tomb relocation, Ying Chengyuan and I made a trip to Chu region. Chu region occupied a place in my memory, but it really couldn't be counted as good memories. Back then, I was sent by my adoptive mother to my maternal grandfather's home here, living under someone else's roof, and nearly got abducted by kidnappers. Fortunately, there was a young man who was abducted together with me at that time, who outwitted those human traffickers and held on until the authorities arrived. Otherwise, who knows where I'd be drifting now? When Ying Chengyuan returned to the Chu region, the old subordinates who had stayed behind were all extremely delighted. After the banquet, several old subordinates reminisced about the past. The crown princess doesn't know back in the day when His Highness was in the Chu region, how mischievous he was. Climbing trees to steal bird eggs, going into rivers to catch fish, entering mountains to hunt wild beasts. There was nothing he wouldn't dare to do. Ying Chengyuan kept his composure. Don't you all talk nonsense? Hey, although our Highness was naughty, how could we describe him as mischievous? At 11 years old, the young Highness was incredibly brave. He went alone deep into the kidnappers' camp, dealt with them, and rescued over 40 children. It was because of this that the emperor brought him back to the capital for discipline, and after that, he rarely came back. Seeing me dazed, Ying Chengyuan held my hand and said in a low voice, You mustn't listen to their nonsense. I was very obedient when I was young. I let out a laugh. Ying Chengyuan was somewhat displeased. What does that laugh mean? I suppressed my smile and said seriously, I think His Highness did very well. No wonder when I first met Ying Chengyuan, I felt his appearance was somewhat familiar. It turns out, long before I knew it, he had already saved me once. In this life, I saved him once. It can be considered coming full circle. Which power struggle plot do you think tests the female lead's intelligence the most? The layout of the Chu Prince's manor's inner quarters. Seeing through the Duke of Ying's informant. Using incense and flowers to pretend to follow the plan, while actually avoiding disaster in secret. B. Feign compliance with the Duke of Ying. Pretend to agree to frame Ying Chengyuan, while secretly collecting evidence to prepare for a counterattack in court. C. Imprison Xian Shang. Use hunger to wear down her will. Probe layer by layer to extract key clues about Liu Quan, paving the way to eliminate the mastermind. D. Cooperate with Ying Chengyuan to purge the court. The two work in perfect coordination, first eliminating Zhao Linghong of Baicheng, then taking down Liu Quan and the Duke of Ying's forces.